Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Broadcasting Network, 1050 AM, following broadcasts in 102.3 FM and 106.5 FM. We are serving the world one household at a time. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Up Connect, and Kimiator Peak Performance Coaching.
Hello and welcome to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio. I am your host today, Steve Matley. This is the finance segment. Again, it's food, fashion, finance, and foundations. Today we're focusing on finance, and this is unlike any finance show you've ever heard. With this, there's all the boring old, same old stock stuff and real estate stuff and buy the precious metals. We're going to talk about things that are unusual, interesting, unknown, things maybe you've heard about and have no idea how to get into, or things that maybe you wish you could get into and didn't know how. We're going to talk about, we have multiple segments today. Starting off with the first segment, I've got a special guest. We're going to talk about investing in your own personal art collection. Then we're going to talk to the same guest about investing in sports memorabilia. I've got another special guest coming in to talk about how you can be the bank and be a private lender. And finally, we're going to have a call-in guest who is a special friend of mine I've known for years, but we're not talking about what we usually invest in. We're talking about horses. Did you know you can invest in a horse besides betting at the racetrack? Okay, let's move on with our first guest. My first guest is Brooke Eldridge, more formally known as Robert Brooke Eldridge. He is a retired lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Army.
That is correct.
A decorated veteran from Vietnam. It's an honor to have him here. We thank him for his service. And what we're going to talk to Brooke about is he has one of the most extensive private art collections in his house I've ever seen. And we never discussed it, but I've been to his house for a couple of events, and I was astounded at what he had. And I was curious about how he got into it and what the value is. So let's find out together what that story looks like. Brooke, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Steve. I'm glad to be able to share this. And collecting art is one of the things that you can go broke on immediately. So I do suggest you start small and continue from there.
Okay, and so starting small, when did you start collecting art?
Well, I've been collecting for over 50 years. I have over 350 original oil paintings hanging on my walls. Now, some are watercolors, some are giclées, some are serigraphs, and it just depends on who the artist is. For example, a Leroy Neiman, the original, would be about $300,000 to $500,000, and I have the serigraph for about $10,000.
Okay, and so the next question would be why? Why art? It seems so different. You're kind of a man's man, obviously, having decorated military guy, and I know you from some other things you've done. Art seems to be a very genteel thing. How did you get into art?
It's interesting. My dad and my mother painted, and they were watercolor painters back in the day. And I kind of watched. I have no artistic talent, so I buy the art because I like it, and I would suggest that's the best way to start off with. If you like it, you can't go wrong. You hang it in your living room, and it still looks great. If you're trying to make money out of it, it's one of the most difficult investments there is. You will see many where you have Sotheby's selling a painting for maybe $50 million. I have none that cost that much. And then the next year they sell the same painting for $30 million. It's another one of the few intrinsic value items that you just don't know how much it's actually worth.
And so when you started collecting art, it was not as an investment. It just happened to be part of your personal lifestyle that fit, but it's turned into a fairly lucrative asset, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to say how much my art collection is worth, but it's worth more than $4 or $5. And each of the paintings, some of them are worth over $25,000, which is small when you're talking the art world. 20, 30 million is nothing out of the ordinary for the big boys. But if you're a little boy like me, you want to just start with $5,000 or $10,000 investment, and be advised, I recommended in the beginning, this is your sock drawer money, not your retirement money.
Okay, so now let me ask you a question, because I see a fairly eclectic collection in what you have. Do you collect art really primarily on topic, genre, the artist, the era, the type of media? How do you collect that?
Now, that's an excellent question. And to answer your question, I collected for every one of those items above. Some I really like. Some I have a girlfriend or had a girlfriend that maybe wanted a mink coat. I bought her a mink coat. And then there I see a painting like the next day of this woman dragging a mink coat up a pair of stairs. So I buy it. I have Jane Seymour paintings. They are about 12 originals by Jane. A lot of people don't realize Jane Seymour is an actual painting. I have an eclectic art collection, and you have to just decide what you want to do. I have Salvador Dali. I have, like I mentioned, Jane Seymour. I have paintings by Danny Day, who's right in our local neighborhood down there in San Diego. I have other paintings by quite a few local artists that I always recommend starting with, because they're an unknown. And you never know if it might take off and they might become the next famous. I have one young artist I'm working with right now, and she's doing a phenomenal job, but having a difficulty selling her work.
Okay, that's fascinating to me. So when you said Jane Seymour paintings, my first thought was you have portraits of Jane Seymour, but you have paintings that Jane Seymour herself has painted as her expression, artistic expression. That's fascinating. So I want to go to another question on this, and that is, you don't just have paintings. I've seen sculptures, and many different types of sculptures, and some are somewhere between a painting and a sculpture, kind of three-dimensional wall art type things. Is that something you started collecting later, or is that something you intentionally collect, or just something that matches a painting that you like?
Now, I would say I started with the paintings, then I went to marble sculptures, then I went to mixed metal. I went to different artists. Leroy Neiman, most people don't even realize he did bronze statues. He only did 2. I have both of them, but there are multiples because the first one is worth many million. The second one's $4,000 or $5,000 each, and they came out at about 2. So you're looking at significant increase. I have another one that I bought by Frederick Hart, one of the most prolific but very, very good acrylic designers, and I bought that for about $10,000. It's worth over $50,000 right now. I have another acrylic by Wilkinson that I bought for about $2,500, and now it's worth closer to $8,000 to $10,000. And another quick sidebar on acrylic: if you can see a bubble in it, it's not a good acrylic.
Fantastic. So essentially what I hear here is basically buy art because you like it and you like the artist, and it may appreciate, and that's great, but it's very difficult if you're trying to do this on a spreadsheet trying to figure out just to do it to make money, unless you are really, really versed in the art world.
It's very hard unless they're like a Picasso or a Pablo, everything like that, you know already it has what we call a value. Anyone else, you have to kind of guess whether it will be worth dollars in the future or not.
Okay, and now one thing I appreciate about you and your art collection, Brooke, is when you open your house for events, it's all visible. You get to share it with your friends, share it with people that come to visit. But I think a lot of people, if they have art and they think it's valuable, it's kind of their art. Where you have, your house is like a museum, and you're happy to share it with people. Is that something that is just because you have a place to put it and they see it, or is that intentional on your part that you enjoy sharing your collection with other people?
I would say it's a combination of both. One, I like them to see my art. I do an artwork walk, on almost every single party that I have for those that wish to take the walk. The second part I like to do is to explain to them, have them look at the piece of art and see if they see what is actually hidden by the artist. And the good artists always have something. For example, they might have their profile in the picture. Others have a hidden sign of smoke. So you just don't know.
That's fantastic. I'll have to look closer next time I'm over there at your party. So my next question on this is when you first got involved in this, did you save up money and set aside in order to buy specific art, or was this something that just happened on a whim and had no intention of actually ever creating a collection out of this?
No, I would say I began because I liked the art. I saw something that looked to me very nice. I had no intention, if you want to say, of making money with it, as opposed to you buy a house, you normally think you're going to make money with it. With art, I just bought it because I liked it. It reminded me of where I was. I bought art because I'd been on the in Roma, and I'm on the steps in Rome, and there was an artist painting, so I immediately bought that painting from him. So a lot of the paintings I bought because that's the place I've been to, and they look good, and I recognize the artist. Some of them are totally unknown, and sometimes those can be the best type of value that you get, and otherwise it could be nothing.
Okay, and do you have a favorite piece?
Oh, yes, I have my mixed metals by Bill Mack. They are, when you look at them, these are what we call full relief. A full relief means you can put your hand behind the image. If you can put your hand behind the image, it's a full relief. A half relief is when it's like a painting, but it might look three-dimensional to you, but you can't put anything behind that piece of art. Mixed metal means that if it was solid bronze, it would not be able to hang on a normal wall. So when they do a mixed metal, it's like a very thin tin or maybe an aluminum that they use, and then they color it so it looks like a bronze. So hence the name mixed metal. And there's no determination what the metal is. The artist makes the form, and when we have more time, I'll go into the discussion on how and why they do that.
Sounds fascinating. You know, one thing that interested me about your house is you have the extensive collection. My mom has a similar type setup in her house, not nearly to the level or as crowded as yours is, but she has a collection of well-known artists, stuff she's done herself, and even her original paint by number she did when she first started learning how to be an artist is up on the wall. It's just a strange, eclectic collection. That's why I think I appreciated going to your house and seeing all that the same way. Well, we're running out of time on this segment. Brooke, I want to thank you for sharing. And one thing I want to point out is this is a form of investing that is an extension of a lifestyle. Brooke has his lifestyle that he enjoys of art and relationships and having people over to enjoy his house and have company. And he's found a way to find an investment vehicle that is truly a part of his fabulous lifestyle. We'll be right back after this.
We are live on KCAA Broadcasting Network, 10:50 a.m., following broadcasts in 102.3 FM and 106.5 FM. We are serving over 5 million households in the Inland Empire, North County, San Diego, Orange County, and San Gabriel Valley. We are serving the world one household at a time. We are also in iHeart, Spotify, Tiki Live, Ustream, Apple, iTunes, and anywhere with your favorite podcast. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Up Connect, and Kim Yater Peak Performance Coaching.